Of 2021, I started seeing these really cute vintage style cakes on Instagram, and then when the summer hit, we got a special treat when Gwen Stefani posted her 5-tier vintage style wedding cake. So tell me, what do you guys think of this cake? Do you love it or do you hate it? For me, the only thing that I don't really like are the pillars, but everything else I think is absolutely amazing, especially the piping. So today we are going to take some ideas from Gwen Stefani's wedding cake and we are going to make our own. Let's get started. We can't work on the cake until we practice our piping techniques, so I purchased this practice board from Wilton. This isn't something I would normally purchase because I already know how to do this type of piping, but I gotta say I was having so much fun practicing my piping, and this little kit even comes with 80 different techniques to practice. We're not gonna go through all of those today. I'm just gonna show you a few before we get started on the cake. The first one is a zigzag, and the practice board is really nice because it tells us that we need a piping tip number 16 and to hold the piping bag at a 45-degree angle. This one is easy because you're basically just piping a squiggly line. For the shell border, I'm using a piping tip number 21. When you're piping this one, you let the buttercream build up and then you pull forward so that it creates a shell. Start the next shell so that it covers the tail of the previous one. The ruffles are tip number 104, and you want to put the wider side of the piping tip up against the cake, and then it's similar to the zigzag where you move the piping bag up and down. Once you feel comfortable with the ruffles, you can add a zigzag on top of it, and this will be slightly more challenging because I'm doing this one in an arch shape. Let's keep challenging ourselves and add a drop string on top of the zigzag. These are done with the piping tip number 3. For these, you touch the buttercream where you want to start and then pull the piping bag out and let it drop by itself and then place it where you'd like the string to end. I find this one to be the hardest and I needed a lot of practice on it. The last one I want to show you is a rope border. It's basically just continuous swirls. So I'm using a piping tip number 21, but feel free to experiment with different sizes for a different look. Okay, so I want to show you all something I learned in a class I took with Colette Peters a long time ago. It's how to mark your cake when you need to make swags or stripes. So what you do is cut out a round piece of parchment paper that's the same size as your cake, then you fold the circle in half, and then fold it again, and then one more time. And then when you unfold it and place it on top of the cake, you can use those lines in the paper as a guide to mark equal spaces on the cake. There are many must-have cake decorating tools, 2 of which are rulers and a really good circle cutter set. I'm using a small sewing ruler to mark how far down I want the swags to go, and then I found the right size circle cutter and I marked half circles all around the top of the cake. This is going to make the piping so much easier. Really quick, I need to stack my cakes. Remember, when you do this, make sure the cakes are really cold so that you don't ding it up. My top tier is 6 inches, so I will need 4 dowels, and I cut those down to the same height as the cake, and then carefully move the 6-inch cake on top of the 8-inch. One more thing, if you are traveling with this cake, don't forget to add a central dowel, which will go through both cakes and down into the cake drum. Let's get to the piping on the cake. So I'm starting first with the ruffles. Just pipe the ruffles along that guide we made earlier, and if you mess up, don't worry, because if your cake is cold, you can just scrape off that mess up and redo it. Let's add zigzags right above the ruffles. Remember, they're just like a squiggly line in an arch shape. Even if they're not perfect, I think they still look good. The hardest ones are next. It's the drop strings. Remember to touch the buttercream to start it, and then let the string drop by itself and slowly guide it over to the other side of the arch and touch it down. If it breaks, just get any tool that you have, pull off that little piece of buttercream and redo it. While I continue piping, I want to show you a couple of my first cakes where I used piping. They were pretty awful, and I did not think I would ever get this skill. So if you feel like you're not getting it yet, just remember these awful cakes and then keep practicing. Let's take an idea from my very first cake, the rosettes, and let's add these along the top edge in a pretty dark pink color. I think that looks so pretty. And to finish off the cake, I'm piping more shell borders in different sizes and colors. Overall, I'm very pleased with this cake. I love the style, and I'm thrilled that this type of cake is so trendy right now. And thank you, Gwen Stefani, for sharing your wedding cake and inspiring me to make this. Honestly, I could make this type of cake all day long. If you're into buttercream style cakes and would like to see more, I made a really neat video last month where I used a ribbon to create this really fun fault line style cake. I will put the link to that if you're interested. And thank you all for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any ideas for me, please let me know in the comment section. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.